Mr. Billy Carson. I don't know much about him. I've seen a few videos of him online. This guy would say the craziest things about Christianity, about the Bible, about Christ. He would say outlandish things and source comical articles. Like, I got this from the Jewish Bible from 1985. I got this from the Sinai Bible. He references that a lot, Sinai Bible. I got this from this. He would say a lot of stuff that is not credible and just say them with such confidence and popularize these falsities. And, that's how he got popular. But recently, I think he did a podcast and he got exposed and he was fact checked. And the man came crashing down, people. The man came crumbling down like a pack of cards. I'm going to watch this and let's see what happens. Billy Carson loses career-ending debate to Christian. Let's see it. All deceptions will be brought down. Deception cannot be allowed to just roam and just spread and just infect minds. Deception must be counterattacked with the truth. Deception must be counterattacked with the truth. You know what I'm saying? So if you have a lot of deceptive warriors who are fighting the war for deception and trying to just infect minds and infect the culture with these lies and these nonsense rhetorics and these nonsense narratives, we also need truth warriors to come out too and propagate the truth and make sure like, yo, this is a foundation of truth and we're going to establish this and we're going to use the truth against those lies. And you know what happens? The truth always wins. The truth will win. You know what I'm saying? So, so let's watch this, man. I will have a lot of things to say as we go through this, just venting, because sometimes I get pissed off when I see this. Let's just see, man. Billy Carson, let's go.
Christianity. And he calls himself, guess what, guys? I'm one of the foremost world leader in the knowledge on ancient texts and tablets, scriptures, papyrus, and cylinders.
But Billy Carson, a debate with Wesely Huff, a Christian scholar and historian, and afterwards, Billy reportedly showed up to the producer's house at 2:30 a.m. demanding that the footage not be released. And if you haven't heard about this debate yet, there's a reason for that.
In the wake of the interview, Billy Carson has asked that the recording not be released. In my personal opinion, the conversation did not go well for Billy, though.
But fortunately, I got my hands on a copy, and after watching it, I can see why Billy tried to keep this off the internet. For the very first, and likely the last time, Billy had a debate where his claims about Christianity were put to the test. So let's break down why this debate was so damaging to Billy's credibility and his claims about Christianity. So the debate started off with Billy's argument that Jesus was never crucified, which, of course, if true, that means that Christianity...
Jesus was never crucified. Let's see where he gets these sources from. Let's see.
Is false. And here's the evidence that he gave in support of his claim.
In my videos, and if you listen to the podcast, the statement is according to the Sinai Bible.
The Sinai Bible? Really? Really, Billy? The Sinai Bible? Man, this is crazy.
Jesus wasn't crucified in that Bible. That Bible predates the King James Version of the Bible. And the text there actually is about 12 to 14,000 differences between the Sinai Bible and the King James Version of the Bible, which came much later. And then also one of the things that were interesting is that they discovered the book of Jesus' wife, which is at the Harvard Seminary, which according to some scholars, that's a little controversial, but they claim that this is an accurate record that Jesus may have even been married, which then, adds more, if that's true, it adds more to, the hypothesis that maybe he wasn't crucified.
So basically he's saying that
maybe he wasn't?
Alleged Sinai Bible doesn't claim that Jesus was crucified and that
there are a lot of absolute claims and maybes. Which one is it?
There's no such thing as a King James manuscript. Like the other translations, the King James Version is just based on the biblical manuscripts that were found. And in addition to the evidence that Billy provided against the crucifixion of Jesus, Billy also says that we discovered the book of Jesus' wife, which he claims shows that Jesus might have been married. Now, I addressed these claims in another video I did on Billy a few months ago, but listen to how Wes responded.
When you say the Sinai Bible, what are you referring to specifically?
It's the biblical text that was written. It made it into you can actually look it up on Amazon. It's a Bible called,
look it up on Amazon, my nigga.
A version at home. It's called the Sinai Bible.
Circular repetition takes us nowhere. What does that mean? Where is it from? Who wrote it? What are the articles or what are the historical data to back the accuracy of this thing? What are you talking about, the Sinai Bible? Let's hear him out.
From Mount Sinai, I'm assuming that's the mountain that they're referencing there. But they put together their own version of the biblical text prior to the King James Version being put out.
Sure.
You can tell this dude knows nothing about what he's talking about. So the only historical reference that you have as a fact for Jesus not being crucified is this Sinai Bible that nobody knows. Apparently it's on Amazon. You can just buy it on Amazon. And yeah, that's a very credible place to get historical fact from, just Amazon. The Sinai Bible. Now this is why we need people to actually study Christianity, like study the history and facts, so we can defend our faith against charlatans like this and clowns like this that come out and just spew nonsense and just come up with just fictional nonsense. and use that, make claims that are not true.
So, when you refer to the Sinai Bible, would you be referring to Codex Sinaiticus?
I don't know what that is. Okay, I don't know Codex Sinaiticus. Okay, I know Leviticus. I know Philippians. I know Corinthians. I don't know Sinaiticus. I don't know what that is. But my guy here, which is the person he's debating, is a historian. Is a Christian historian. He knows the facts. He knows what he's talking about. The thing with people like this is that when they have so much information, right, and a lot of false information, it's false information and it's accurate information mixed together, and when they just throw that at you, like, you might be unassuming, you might not know nothing about Christianity, or maybe you don't know much, you just know the Bible and that's it, and they come with these crazy fictional facts mixed in with some other real facts, and they just sort of just overwhelm you with this information. And if you don't know what you're talking about, these guys will convince you, and they will make you look stupid, and they will make you question your faith, and they can deceive you if you don't know what you're talking about. Which is why we need people like this, who know what they're talking about, who know the history, who know the historical context, who know the data, who can actually defend the faith against people like this. And this actually prompts me as a Christian to actually go and start studying a lot of historical fact about Christianity, apologetics, and I might even go to Bible school, who knows. But yeah, man, because you can find people like this. The Sinai Bible. Oh my gosh. You are not a Christian, man. You're doing the devil's work. I tell you. You're doing the devil's work very faithfully, too.
Like the codex that comes... Okay.
So the reason why Wes is asking him this is because
I gotta research that, though. Sinaiticus?
there's no such thing as the Sinai Bible,
Billy.
apart from a title that someone on Amazon gave it
Your credibility is in question, my guy. There's no such thing. He said it's on Amazon, though.
for a copy of it that they were selling. But that book only contains the Codex Sinaiticus, which is really bad news for Billy, because as Wes makes very clear...
So I work with manuscripts in my linguistic work. I'm an expert on early Christian scribal culture, and particularly in Greek and Coptic
We
manuscripts.
needed you at this moment.
I actually have...
It was right there behind. My man was prepared. That book was right behind him. He put it there strategically. It's like, when you come up with this dumb fact of Sinaiticus, of Sinai Bible, I'm gonna just pull that out, to show you that I'm not a goof. I know what I'm talking about, and I researched this, and I'm an actual expert, and it's right there, right? So you can cool off right there with the nonsense talk. You can cool off with that. Crazy, isn't it?
Facsimile. So I have a photocopy that was done by the British Library of Codex Sinaiticus that I work
Right.
with in my office.
Right.
So I have it, and the Codex Sinaiticus in particular is just a Greek... It's a
You better sip that water, Billy. Better sip
4th
some.
century Greek manuscript. It comes from approximately between 325 and 350 AD, and its text of the Gospels reads almost identical to the modern Greek text that we develop translations from.
Yikes. So Wes actually has the
Jesus was not crucified in the Sinai Bible. What a load of baloney.
manuscript that Billy's referring to in his office, and he studies this for a living. But even more devastating...
When your education leads you away from Christ, your enlightenment, or whatever kind of knowledge you're getting, is leading you away from the truth, you should know that, my guy, you're going in the wrong direction. The devil is on the wheel. He's the one driving you. He's driving the boat, and you're going the other way, my guy. So whatever knowledge you get should not lead you away from Christ. It should not confuse you about Jesus. It should not make you question if Jesus was crucified or not. That is doctrine of demons, literally, right? So a lot of these confusions, a lot of these, you know what I'm saying, historical manipulations here and there, people can just, use their influence to bring falsehood and confuse people, And I saw a video, like a compilation video of this guy. He cited this Sinai's nonsense on multiple podcasts, many platforms. He goes on there, and it's like, the first thing this man says is, hey, Jesus was not crucified. You want to know how? The Sinai Bible. The Sinai Bible says he wasn't crucified. So, man, I kind of get agitated when I hear things like this. Like, people just... I'm like, man, like, dude. And the funny thing is that, you have a responsibility for your influence. I don't care how you got it. I don't care how you got there. But if you have influence and people respect you, and what you say can affect the minds of people, can sway people, you are going to be judged for that influence. And whatever you do, the Bible says it. Any of you that turns these little ones away from me or leads them astray, your punishment is going to be 10 times worse. Because that influence, you're going to give account for it, what you did with it. So people like this really scare me, man. But, people who, are real Christians, well, let's say real Christians, people who are experienced Christians, who know the Bible, not just spiritually, but they know it linguistically. They on research. They know it educationally, and they know it spiritually. You know what I'm saying? You can't really deceive people like that, They've been in the faith for many years. And not to say your years of being in the faith is quantified to how much you know God, because that is very far from the truth. But, you know, people who are new to Christ, people who are still seeking, you know, some truth, some kind of facts, you know, like agnostics, this can be very damning to them. Like, oh, apparently Christ was not ever crucified. And it's in the Sinai Bible. Apparently this is that. So whatever knowledge we get, the accumulation of that knowledge should lead to Christ. It should make Christ more magnified. You should become more Christ-like. It should, the goal and the focal point of everything should be Christ. But when you're getting knowledge and it's leading you towards self, away from Christ into self, and you know that trajectory is taking you down the wide path, right? You're going the wrong way, buddy. Yeah, let's hear more of this. You know, interesting.
When you say that it denies the crucifixion or that the crucifixion isn't there, I mean, I can go on right now, Codex Sinaiticus, and I can look up the end of.
I mean, you were quoting this thing for like long to so many people. Didn't you do basic research of what the hell you were talking about the science? Didn't you read the science about? Didn't you know what it was, that it was Codex Sinaiticus? Didn't you do any basic fact checking into this thing? You were just claiming that it's a proof that Christ wasn't crucified. Like, I would assume for you to boldly come on a podcast like this with a historian and claim something like that, you must have done your work. You must have like read a few books and talked to a few people and really, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Cross your I's and dot your T's. Oh, you know what I'm saying? I would assume you did that. Now, this man, we need to pray for him, right? He needs prayers.
Say Matthew 27, where it has Jesus being crucified, and that's in Codex Sinaiticus, or the John 19, or any of the other ones. So actually, are you able to pull up a website with the viewers or listeners or whatever?
Right now.
You're looking for it.
Make sure I have the version that I'm looking at.
All right, now, if it isn't clear by now, this is devastating for Billy's credibility.
Who even believed this dude? Like, bro, I've seen a few videos of this guy talking a whole load of whoopsie daisy baloney nonsense. Who believes this guy?
Billy has ran with this claim for years until Wes decides to ask.
Yeah, I saw this man on the Joe Rogan podcast, and Joe Rogan, like, there are real pastors, right? Not fake ones, real prophets and real pastors that exist, real Christian historians that exist. Invite them on your podcast. Not this charlatan, not this guy, not him. You know what I'm saying?
Billy to pull it up online so that way they can verify it together. And then Billy says that he wants to make sure he has the right version. But I'm not even sure what he means.
The right version.
By right version, because there's only one version, the one that Billy has referred to countless times over the last few years. And by the way, you don't have to take Wes's word for it. You can go to codexsinaiticus.org right now to view it yourself. And if you do, you'll find that it's virtually exact to the Bible that we have today, which is why you won't find a single scholar on the planet that agrees with Billy or has any idea what he's talking about here. So now that Billy is really in the hot seat, let's hear.
Hurts his credibility. I don't know who found this dude credible in the first place.
How he responds.
On the text where I was referencing, actually, I was misquoted. I misquoted. Okay. There's the gospel.
You misquoted. Okay. After claiming this like 100 times on 100 different platforms, now you misquoted. After being fact checked by an expert, a real expert.
Barnabas.
Okay. Now, let's be charitable. So it is certainly possible that he could have misquoted the
charitable, bruh. Yo.
Reference. The only problem is this isn't the first time that he said this, and he even said it at.
Somebody is trying to break and destroy the whole foundation of your faith. I'm not being charitable. You're not even no Christian to me. If you telling me that you have proof that Christ was not crucified, that is the whole foundation our faith is built on. He died and rose. If you telling me you got some kind of devil made up fact that he didn't do that didn't happen, yeah, you're antichrist. Yeah, the devil is really using you overtime. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not being charitable to you at all. You're getting no form of charity from me. I'm gonna check you. I'm going to fact check you. I'm going to shut you down. I'm going to pray for you. But there's no charity I'm going to give you for you to carry on this nonsense and spew this deception to the poor masses. You're not getting that privilege from me. No.
At the beginning of the debate.
In my videos, and if you listen to the podcast, the statement is according to the Sinai Bible, Jesus wasn't crucified in that Bible.
And he's made this exact claim in almost every major podcast interview.
Yes, unfortunately.
That he's been on. But if he really did misquote his reference, then we would expect for him to quote the Sinai Bible or the Book of Barnabas when he makes the argument against the crucifixion. So given this, I can't make sense of why he usually quotes them both as evidence that the
nothing fact that you will give me in this world will make me believe Christ did not exist or Christ didn't die. I don't care. I don't care what kind of fabrications y'all do. I don't care if y'all say you found whatever kind of artifact from the 19th or from the 15th century or whatever century or how many thousand years ago. I don't care if you brought somebody from the dead like a freaking necromancer and you brought him and he gave account that Christ didn't exist. I don't care what you do. Nothing will make me not believe in Christ. Nothing. I'm not looking for facts to corroborate and match stories that, okay, this is true, that's not true. No, no. I'm sorry. It's not the case. Stop.
Crucifixion never happened.
I
Get
give
the
you a
foolery.
big translation that's off. Is they say, well, Jesus was crucified.
Whoa.
Well, that doesn't exist in the Sinai Bible.
What happened
It
to
doesn't exist in the book of Barnabas.
So if I was a fan of Billy, then I would be pretty concerned that prior to this, he hasn't had a debate where someone can challenge him on his claims. And the first time that he was
He hasn't debated anybody that knows what the hell he's talking about. He hasn't. It's like a pseudoscience expert who knows a lot of science buzzwords. You know what I'm saying? Who can put together some really fancy sentences talking to some, somebody who, you know what I'm saying, is like a librarian or somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like a cook or a chef. And the chef is like, really? Just being bamboozled and wowed by, the words the word salad that you're just putting on right now, the show you're putting on right now. And like, wow, really? Because he knows nothing about what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Try to debate the chef on food or some cuisines. He gonna check you. Because, like, this is my line. You know what I'm saying? And this guy got so much traction and popularity, invited to different podcasts. And, it's like, who are you promoting? The biggest sacrifice that man did on the cross, you claim it didn't happen? Who you promoting? What are you doing? I might need to go and do some background check on him, like, to get some context of who he was and how he became a Christian and what went wrong. Because, child, something definitely went wrong.
challenged, he basically admits that he was wrong. And this shows that he's been undeniably misleading people with this
Right.
claim. But I'm sure that we could all overlook this mistake if the point about the Book of Barnabas still stands, right?
Nothing you can say.
Well, let's see what Wes has to say about this claim.
The Gospel of Barnabas is a really interesting document because it is a known forgery. It shows no actual indication of evidence of coming from or even having knowledge of first century Jewish understanding. And I think a bigger problem is that the Gospel of Barnabas actually paraphrases Dante's Inferno. Never mind the fact that we don't have any evidence of it prior to the 14th century and none in any other language other than
A Christian is not just a spiritual person. A Christian is also a researcher who researches. I know for a fact that nothing can make me not believe in Christ. I know that for a fact. But there are people out there, right, who are hell-bent on not believing. People out there who are looking for some kind of logical fact to believe. People out there with all kinds of, concepts and all kinds of materials and documents and, narratives to sort of dispel and nullify Christianity and its foundations. And that's your job as a historian, as a researcher, to research these topics, to understand what you're talking about, to debate these topics. The old Christians debated. The old church used to debate. They would debate on many issues. And some of their conclusions are what we, use today as our precepts and, our guides. You know what I'm saying? So, like, we definitely need to get back to that art of researching. You know what I'm saying? Not just reading your Bible. Reading your Bible is good. Read your Bible. Read your Bible, of course. That's the meat. That's the word of God. But you have to, sort of understand the landscape of what you're coming into, going back to how it started. And the Bible is the foundation for all that. I mean, it gives you a very, documented history of, from Abraham to Jesus. Everything is documented there. But you need to go beyond that. You know what I'm saying? Because people like this exist, who would cite this and this. And so you need to know a lot of things. So when somebody comes who don't know what the hell they're talking about, but they have a lot of buzzwords, so they wouldn't just bamboozle you into confusion. So you also know what you're talking about. So a Christian should read far and wide, way beyond just Christianity. Because, I'm trying to convince everybody. I'm trying to evangelize everybody, even to the scientist, to the chef, to the technologist, to the humanist, to the doctor, to the agnostic, to whoever, to the philosopher. I'm trying to evangelize to everybody. So I'm going to read far and wide so I know what they're talking about. So they can't just come with these claims of this and this and that. And, some people go as far as studying Hebrew and Greek. That's how dedicated they are. They study Hebrew and Greek. You know what I'm saying? Like, they really go deep into this. And these are scholars of the word and real historians that really know the facts and details, down to a T, So we need more people like that to really come up front. So, like, when you're speaking about the word of God, you're speaking about it spiritually, of course. It's a spirit-inspired word. but you also understand the historical context, and you understand, the landscape and the cultural context of what you're talking about. You're not just speaking like an ignorant person. You know what I'm saying? So like, we need that real balance, for real.
than Middle Age Italian Italian and Spanish.
Okay, now what Wes said there was incredibly important because the first piece of evidence that Billy gave in support of his claim that Jesus was never crucified was based on the claim that these books came before the King James Bible and didn't include the crucifixion. But the actual biblical texts that our Bibles are based on, they reference the crucifixion and go back to the 2nd century. So that means it's impossible for Billy to be correct about this, since he cites the Sinai Bible that goes back to the 4th century and does reference the crucifixion, and the Book of Barnabas is more than 1,000 years later than the biblical manuscripts that we have, and it wasn't even written in Greek, but instead Italian and Spanish, and by the way, it was a proven forgery.
Italian and Spanish? Crazy.
So now that Billy's back is up against the wall once again with facts that refute his claim, let's hear what Billy has to say for himself.
It's a known forgery. I mean, no one's referring to the Gospel of Barnabas as anything other than...
If you say it's an unfortunate...
This guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. This dude doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, right? He hasn't done any research at all. He just picks this. Oh, that's that Christ didn't exist? Okay, that says that Christ wasn't crucified? Okay, that this. He just picks all of this stuff and just combines them and just, that's it. He doesn't know any basis at all of it. Because if you had the decency to at least be honest to yourself, to say, okay, am I really looking for truth? What am I doing here? You would at least go and at least research these things you're claiming to be facts or using to dispel, historical facts. And fact check them. Like, is this real? Like, there's no way I could have found that out with a Google search. There's no way you didn't know that was a known forgery. Except if you know what you're doing and you're just the devil's apostle and, you know exactly what you're doing, right? Because there's no way.
Yes, but I'm going to go with that. Let's talk about the Old Testament a little bit.
Wait, so his response was...
Hold up. Wait a minute. We're not going to gloss over that. Like, you weren't just absolutely wrecked, okay? And fact-checked for your false claims. We're going to look at you. And you're going to take accountability.
If you say it's a forgery, I'm going to go with that. Now, if Billy really is one of the foremost world leaders in the knowledge on ancient
texts and tablets, and you couldn't do a damn Google search on if something was real or fake. See, people are over-exaggerated, and they always exaggerate themselves. That's why when I see a great, humble man, I know that man's really great. But when I see a talkative, mediocre, you know what I'm saying? He might even be like a great man, but he just, like, foremost, what? Man, shut up. You can't do basic research, bro. I'm talking about ancient texts. You cannot do basic research, my G, of your claims. You might be good at pseudo-Egyptian mythology or whatever, Greek mythology, but do not bring that nonsense into Christianity and then try to act like we don't know what we're doing over here. Like, don't do that.
Scriptures, papyrus, and cylinders. Then we would expect to at least hear some response to what Wes said, since Billy's claims about Christianity quite literally depend on those facts being wrong. But sadly, it seems that Billy didn't have a response to the facts that Wes pointed out. He instead tried to move to the Old Testament, but Wes wasn't going to let him off the hook.
We're not going to let you slide. No, we're not going to let you off that easy, Billy. You got to catch this fade. You got to catch this one. This conversational fade, you got to catch it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So,
not easily. He wanted to make sure that they first discussed Billy's final piece of evidence that he gave in support of his claim. And that evidence was Jesus had a wife.
If you say it's an unfortunate, yes, but I'm going to go with that. Let's talk about the Old Testament a little bit and leading up into the New Testament.
Well, hold on, because do you mind if I address the Gospel of Jesus' wife?
Sure, go ahead.
What was her name? I'm like trying to write notes like I know what I'm doing, but I'm just...
He's like trying to make people believe that Jesus wasn't God. He wasn't. I need to really watch him to understand his whole concept of Christianity. Like what do you really believe, man? Because this is damning.
I'm just curious.
So the Gospel of Jesus' wife doesn't actually mention. So oftentimes what happens is that the text of the Gospel of Jesus' wife is kind of paralleled with the Gospel of Philip, which mentions that that Jesus would kiss Mary Magdalene on the mouth. The reason we know it's also not legitimate is because we can tie it directly to not copying from an ancient text, but actually copying from an online version of the Gospel of Thomas in a PDF form. And the mistake on that PDF form was copied into the text that was borrowed in the phraseology of Jesus' wife.
All right, so what Wes is saying here isn't some sort of claim that's hard to verify. You literally can't Google Jesus' wife without seeing tons of articles explaining exactly how all of this went down. This alleged inscription about Jesus' wife wasn't copied from an ancient text, but instead from a modern PDF of the Gospel of Thomas that had an error in it, and the forger accidentally copied the same error. So it's true that Harvard was initially fooled into believing that it was legit, wife. Only later to clarify that it was a forgery due to the reasons that Wes brought up. So unless Billy literally doesn't do any research, there's no doubt in my mind that Billy's aware of these facts.
He doesn't do no kind of research. For the foremost leader in ancient texts, my guy, you do no research. A Google search is too much for you. I've heard this Jesus wife thing. I've heard it a lot. You know, a lot of pseudo Christian naysayers, bring up their delusional, baseless facts on Jesus had a wife, was Mary Magdalene. There's no fact to prove that. There's no historical evidence for that. Absolutely none. It's like, where are you getting this information from, my guy? Like, where is this coming from? You know. So I've heard that a lot. I've heard that a lot. But that's false. Our God was tempted in every way like a man. It's there in the Bible, like a normal man. But he did not cave into any of those temptations. He was a flawless man that never sinned, and he never wifed anybody, right? He lived and died a sinless life. And everything that he did, his entire existence, from birth to death, was for us. So the only wife he has is the church. And, we're his bride, and he's the bridegroom. So I don't know what the hell this man's talking about. Jesus had a wife. It's like he's trying to make us not believe in Jesus, or like, the foundational concepts of what Jesus, what makes Jesus Jesus. He's trying to dispel that and make us believe something else. Yeah, charlatan. That's what I gotta say.
How is he going to refute these facts and respond to the claims?
I don't know anybody in the field of papyrology, paleography, historiography who actually refers to these documents as
First time I'm hearing these words though. Paleography, paperology. Okay,
being legitimate.
That's fair enough. That's respect that. So
you better respect that, man. After spewing falsehood, my guy, you better respect that. Like, you ain't got no choice but to respect that. You can't say nothing to that, right? So
let's go into the
respect it and skedaddle.
Old Testament a little bit.
So once again, Billy has no rebuttal and is trying to pivot to the Old Testament, despite him going on every major podcast.
And he's gonna get clapped in the Old Testament too, for sure.
Telling people that this is evidence that Jesus had a wife. And just so we're all on the same page here, at this
agitates me, pisses me off, for real.
this point, Billy has given 3 arguments that undermine the credibility of the Bible and the...
Which I'm like, he can't be a Christian, right? There's no how he's a Christian. Okay, I'm gonna just say he's not a Christian. He's a pseudo-spiritualist. There are many of them now that try to preach this gospel of self-indulgence and self-worship, and you're the universe, and you're the man that is the owner of yourself, and you're God, and you can control your existence, and a lot of those, we have them around now. So you see that a lot. So I think that's what he is, and he's trying to sort of promote that belief system by being some Christian scholar. God forbid, this guy's not a Christian scholar. Okay, this guy is charlatan, and the only grace I'm gonna give him, like, yo, I just gotta pray for you, man. Like, for real. Like, you're a very pliable weapon in the hands of the devil. Like, he's using you very faithfully to preach his message. Even the devil wouldn't believe this. The devil gonna look at this guy and laugh at him like, you saying Jesus wasn't crucified? Nigga, we killed him. Like, bro, we crucified him. You telling us that? Okay, man, it's all right.
Christians. His first argument was that the Sinai Bible doesn't mention that Jesus was crucified and that it came before the King James Version. But in reality, not only is there no such thing as the Sinai Bible, the codex that he's referring to does mention the crucifixion and is virtually exact with the Bible that we have today. The second piece of evidence that he gave was for the Book of Barnabas, which was written in Spanish.
And if you check his background, I guarantee you he has his foundations in the church. And it's always the case. The biggest fighters of the gospel came from the church. Look at it. A lot of these atheists, they came from the church. A lot of these people were brought up in the church. Their parents were avid Christians. I don't know where the vitriol came from, the bitterness came from. I don't know where the hurt came from, which is a discussion that must be had for sure, because that is something that is true. It does happen, and it's very valid. Anywhere you have men, you will have flaws and mistakes. And, anywhere you have men, you will have God and the devil, because some will give themselves to the devil, some will give themselves to God. So you're always going to have that duality of good and bad anywhere there's men. So you cannot, even in a church setting, you're always going to have these things there. I mean, read the letters of Paul. I mean, it was there even from then, when you had Christianity in its hot and shining and bright form, rawest form. You even had that there. You had, sexual immorality. You had, lukewarmness. You had all that there. So that still exists, and it's even worse now. But, we need to have a conversation. God is sovereign. His integrity cannot be questioned. A man's mistake does not, demean the integrity or the sovereignty of God in any way. You know what I'm saying? And definitely a man's mistake can portray God in a certain light, for sure. Just like Moses. People looked at God through the lens of Moses. Like, they're like, yo, you the catalyst that we have. You are the medium that we have that connects us to God. You know what I'm saying? Now that is no more. Now we have direct entrance. But you know, you still have pastors today. People look at them, with this God complex, this God image of, oh, this God is the epitome of spirituality and Christ likeness, and he's the person I want to look like and be like. You know what I'm saying? We have that a lot these days. And when that person grifts or makes a mistake or does something damning that just breaks their conscience, they start to question everything, which is why I recommend look to God. You can look to men, for example. you know they've been through what, especially if they've been through what you're going through. You can look to them for help here and there, but look to God, man, because I'm a man. I can fail, I can break down, I can turn around. I have a choice. I can turn around and go the other way. If you follow me, you're going to hell. You're going to hell too. So God is the standard. The Bible is the standard. No man comes above that. No man equates with that. You know what I'm saying? Every man, should come under that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's a different conversation, but this is crazy.
And dated well
This is
over
crazy.
1,000 years later than the biblical manuscripts that we have currently. And lastly, he appeals to the gospel of Jesus' wife, which was actually just a small fragment that was a proven forgery. And to make matters worse, Billy didn't have a sufficient rebuttal to any of these claims. So at this point in the debate, Wes has successfully refuted every claim that Billy made with facts that anyone watching this video can easily go verify. So now we're all starting to see why Billy worked so hard to keep this video off of the internet. But after having all of his claims on the New Testament utterly
Really?
to keep this video
He was in somebody's house at 2 a.m. trying to save his damaged image. My guy, go home, man.
off of the internet.
Go home. Okay? Think about
But
your
after
life.
having all of his claims on the New Testament utterly
Repent.
demolished, Billy once again tries to pivot the conversation to a place where he seems to feel more confident in his research, the Old Testament.
That's fair enough. I can respect that. So
The long-awaited Old Testament. Oh my God. He has some damning information that will discredit God himself. The Old Testament. Let's see the fact. Let's see what he says. Let's go ahead and give it here.
let's go into the Old Testament a little bit. Predominantly, from my research, I discovered that a lot of information from the Enuma Elish and the Seven Tablets of Creation is
No. Did he say illumination or illumination? The 7 tablets of creation. Jesus. Okay. This guy gonna spin your head if you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You better do some research, man. This guy gonna spin your head with the illumination. Let's hear it, man. I don't care about none of that, man. All I know is Jesus is God, Jesus is Lord. He died for my sins, and I must sacrifice myself and let him reign in me. Self must die and Christ must reign. That's all I care about. I don't care about no illumination, nothing. But I definitely need to learn what that is now in case I run into somebody like this, who tries to bamboozle me with all this nonsense. Let's hear it.
a lot of in Genesis, a lot of the creation story that comes into Genesis. Not all of it, but because obviously Genesis is a much smaller version of a much bigger story. But it's literally almost word for word from the Enuma Elish.
So Billy's basic argument here is that the Old Testament, particularly Genesis, was...
Are you noticing a pattern of these buzzwords? Sinai Bible, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what he referenced for Jesus having a wife, but no, it's the Enuma Elish or the Magi. Ciao.
copied from other ancient texts, and he says that the Genesis creation account is...
It's literally almost word for word from the Enuma Elish.
Which is an insane claim to anyone who's read both, which is why Wes decides to ask Billy if...
Bro, that sounds like something out of Star Wars, man. That sounds like some, you know what I'm saying? Some outwardly fictional TV show or something. Illumination? 7 tablets?
He's read it.
This is comical.
A really smart move.
Have you read the Enuma Elish?
Yeah, I've done lectures on it.
Sure. Do you mind summarizing the content of the creation account in the Enuma Elish for us?
Now, this was actually a really smart move from Wes, because if you've ever read the creation account in Genesis 1 and 2, I want you to tell me just how much Billy's summary sounds like the creation account in Genesis.
Sure. The Enuma Elish is a very ancient text discovered in the Library of Ashurbanipal, and the summary of it is that it really gives us an account, which is crazy, an astronomical account
Tell
of
us,
the creation
man.
of our solar system. It talks about planets and moons gaining specific orbits around the sun. It talks about a huge planet named Tiamat, 46 times larger than Earth. Earth didn't exist at the time, according to the author of this text, which is pretty interesting. And then there talks about a nemesis of sorts. In the original version, it's called Nibiru, but in a more recent version, still thousands of years old, the name was changed to Marduk. Marduk is in the Jewish American Library, in the biblical text, in the Torah, and so forth. Very popular figure in ancient times in the religious books and text. Marduk wanted to be the destroyer, so Marduk is the one that during its next orbit towards Tiamat, crashed into Tiamat and destroyed Tiamat. A huge chunk of it swung away, recoalesced, taking the water, land, and organic material, which basically recoalesced as our planet here, Earth, and the rest of it broke up into pieces. Some of it turned into the asteroid belt. Other parts of it were thrown towards the sun, and some were thrown towards the inner Oort cloud, towards the outer edge of the solar system. This planet, or this moonlet that orbited, supposedly a brown dwarf, based on the description of it, gained a very
brown dwarf. Is this Disney?
strange orbit around our sun. And we have the scientific evidence now also to match with NASA's data, where we see that Saturn and I believe Neptune switch places. Uranus is flipped on its side.
None of this leads to Jesus. I don't know what the hell this points to, but there are many accounts of the creation story. Many different accounts, but it's the same concept. It's the same storyline, right? The Indians have one. You know what I'm saying? African mythology has one. You know what I'm saying? The Red Indian mythology has one. Greek mythology has one. Chinese, bro, almost every culture on earth has a version of this happening, of the world being destroyed, of, you know, a pre-flood era, you know what I'm saying? Pre-ice age era, you know, dinosaurs and, you know, large birds flying in the sky. Almost every, you know, culture has a version of different gods, this god, that god, and this god, and, you know, some even still exist today and people still believe them. So I don't know what's special about the Illumination 7 tablets of the creation story that this man is citing, man. Like, this dude, bro.
And that's more evidence that something came through our solar.
None of this information will lead you to Christ. None. You want to know the position of the 7 planets and how the, you know, geographical force, or the gravitational force aligns them all, you know, in the solar orbit. You want to know how that is. You want to know how many years ago it formed. None of this leads to Christ. None of this is salvation. This is dead knowledge that you do not need to know, right? If you ask God these questions, he's not going to answer you, because you don't need to know none of that. That's not your place. You don't need to know the plant. You don't need to know none of that. That's not your place, right? So the gospel is simple, man. Simple, easy, straight to the point. None of this, okay? But let's hear it out, you know, and yeah.
System in ancient times and gravitationally really tugged at planets here and switched up their orbits and even pulled the axis of a planet on its own side, where the equator is now running north and south. So a little bit of modern astrophysics kind of backs up what this ancient text is saying.
Okay.
But the Enumilish also then begins to talk about the fact that these beings, it kind of cuts into the fact that these beings.
And even when you read, you know, the Bible consists of many books. You know what I'm saying? And I think the actual number is 83. I'm not going to say a number. I don't know. But of course, the number we have now is 66. There are 66 in the Bible, 66 books in the Bible. But there are other books that are not in the Bible, but are referenced in the Bible that we should reference, but they're not in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? And one of the books, I think it's the book of, is it Jashar or Jashar? I don't know. I'm not sure. Or the book of Enoch, I think. And in that book, I think it's the book of Enoch, yeah. In that book, like, you have an account of a lot, like an in-depth account of, you know, pre-flood era, you know, with Noah and, you know, the people that existed then, and the sons of God that came down and, you know, encountered with the daughters of men, and they had giants and all that stuff. And, you know, the atmosphere was different then, the tectonic plates were different then, things were different then, you know, animals look different then, humans look different, built different, you know, giants. A lot of that was there, and more in-depth context on what happened to Abraham, even after the flood, you know, post-flood, you know, Abraham and all that, you know, Nimrod and all this, you know, the birth of, you know, witchcraft and the worship of the sun, the moon, the stars, and all that stuff, the constellations. You have all that there, you know, so that's not really like foreign like that. Like, we know that happened. Like, we know, and the Bible references some of these things too, and we know, like, you know, a version of that actually happened. So, you know, and when you look at these other cultures and the stories that they purport, it's very similar, almost the same thing. I mean, you have different characters, and they can say, oh, this name is this, like, you know, for the Yoruba religion, we have, you know, different gods for different purposes, you know, the Oshun and the, we have Shangu and all this stuff, many gods, you know, and many cultures have their own different versions, but it's the same storyline. It's the same storyline, you know? So nothing really new to what this is saying, just a copy paste of the same story into different cultures at different timelines, and they tell the same story, but it's you know, it has different characters, that's all. But, you know, this guy, man,
you know, are on Earth, and at some point begin to.
And the main point of all this is that, yo, if this is not going to lead you to Jesus, my G, you know what I'm saying?
To engage mankind
So our spirituality is pretty, it's very deep, man. Steer clear from all this extra spiritual stuff about this. If it doesn't bring me closer to God, I don't want it. I'm not in it. I'm not doing it.
In other words, they didn't create people from scratch, but they engaged the existing hominid and began to utilize us as workers for their workforce.
Yup, exactly like Genesis.
It's literally almost word for word from the Enuma Elish.
So now let's hear how Wes responds.
I think that there are components of what you said that I would say are in there. I'm not sure it's the best summary. Nonetheless, okay, going with what you said that there were like verbatim parallels with the biblical creation story. Even just going off with what you said, which I think.
What part of that story, the baloney he just spewed for I don't know how many minutes, what part of that is similar to the text in Genesis of the humanoid and the gravitational axis of the planets pulling towards and making a rock belt between the planets and Saturn and Mars and Neptune? Like, my G, like, is this an episode of Doctor Who? Like, what show is? Are we watching a Marvel episode? Like, what is this? What are we doing? This is a whole made-up fictional story of somebody on an acid trip who took some mushrooms. This is not Genesis. What is this dude talking about?
There are components of that I would agree with, the Battle of the Gods, the concept of Enki and the younger gods, and they fight Tiamat, and then Marduk, who swears he'll defeat Tiamat, and Kwenku, who kills Tiamat by shooting her with an arrow, and there's this big battle, and then the gods that die end up being the earth and the sky and even us, because we are the end result of that battle. I'm just curious, when you say that there are not just parallels, but there's actual copying, looking at Genesis chapter 1 and 2, where the creation story is summarized in the Bible, what are the actual kind of parallels there that you're...
Right. Mr. Billy, let us know. What parallels are you talking about right now? Like, what are the similarities between what you just said? I've read Genesis many times. I can probably quote it word for word. I don't see no similarities, man. What are you talking about?
You're looking to, because as someone who's read both, do I not find parallels?
I mean, that would be a good movie, though. Like, Marvel should pick that up. That would be a good multiverse movie. Like, that'd be a nice one. The gods and all that stuff coming down, humanoid slaves. That'd be nice. But that ain't the Bible, man. So cut the crap.
Actually, and this is the majority of ancient Near Eastern scholarship with me, think that Genesis chapter 1 is actually an apologetic against documents like the Enuma Elish. So what are the parallels there?
So Billy is now in the hot seat once again. Now that he's being pressed to give evidence again, how do you think that he'll respond?
So what are the parallels there?
Separated the waters from the waters, for example. That's in the
Enuma
Elish, and that's also in the biblical.
God bless you. God heal you, deliver you from this.
The text.
Praying for you.
And as polite as
the waters from the water. Oh my God, dog! You literally quoted this whole storyline of, you know what I'm saying? Some crazy post-creation, not pre-creation story of whatever the hell that was, and you telling us that this has parallels and relations and correlations with the Bible. The waters. You think stupid? Like, you think we dumb? Like, you think you can just? God bless you. Pray for you.
Wes is simply couldn't hold back his amusement at this point.
Okay, that's, I would agree, is a parallel. The only reason I highlight that is that if you're making this the argument, because if you brought it up, and I mean,
you must have substantial claim, like, to give us word for word clear parallels between. Let's not even indulge this nonsense, man.
I mean, this with all due respect,
I do not think this man
superficial parallels. I would agree. The separation of the water, the concept of the earth being formless and void. That's also in the Enuma Elish.
That's also in almost every fictional movie and TV show, right? Have you read anime, mangas? A lot of that shit is there too. Pause. Sorry for my language, but a lot of that is there too. Have you watched these fictional TV shows? Yeah, that's there too. So.
However, I think all the other details, it's the details that make the difference. And we're looking at not the superficial crossovers, but the actual themes and concepts of what it's saying. You don't have a creation within 7 days.
The Bible's not going to take the Enuma Elish and put it into the biblical text. There's certain words that they utilize that let me know that they copied it from that text. Like, for example, separating the water from the waters, the void, earth being void. That information is literally just copied over. So it tells you that somebody saw that.
Oh my God.
And said, let me add it to this book right here, or let me add it to the scripture or this papyrus, because it wasn't a book yet.
So initially, Billy said that Genesis
was
crazy
word
for word, and then he provided part of one sentence in support of his claim, with Wes providing another. Then when asked for,
they literally copied what?
clarity, Billy repeats Wes's second sentence back to Wes in support of his claim. And then Billy seems to change his argument to say that there were some sentences that were copied, even though he can only provide part of one, and Wes gave him the other one. So let's go ahead and hear his response to this, and then we'll wrap up.
Let me just say this. So the reason why I say it's actually an apologetic against that is because the purpose of the Enuma Elish, which the Babylonians read every Babylonian New Year, was to point out the fact that the deities, and there's countless deities in the Babylonian pantheon, they actually come from the created order. So they're not outside of time and space. They actually come from the created order. And when they die in this battle, right, when Tiamat is defeated, the defeated gods become the earth and the sky and and even you.
Now this guy is so knowledgeable. He's even telling him and teaching him the lore of his own fictional story. Like he's even telling him like, yo, this Babylonian religion that you're trying to, you know what I'm saying, compare with the Bible and say the Bible copied it from the Babylonian religion. Let me even tell you what this is. He's telling this guy right now, like, this is crazy.
You and me. And in that sense, the theme is that you don't actually have any purpose or end result. And you're not created in the image of God. In fact, in the ancient Babylonian system, only the kings were created in the image of God. I would say
that's very similar to, like, I've watched a few videos on Hinduism. I love my Hindu friends. But like, this is very similar. Even the caste system is a reflection of this. I'm talking about the Indian caste system. In Hindus, if I'm not mistaken, there are like gods, which are like the gods, right? And then there are like humans, which are not nowhere near the gods. The humans are like servants of the gods. The humans are like, you know, slaves of the gods. And, you know what I'm saying, we're created for them, to please them, for their amusement. It's very similar to this. And many other religions too, cultures, you know, and belief systems. Many of them. So this is not foreign, right? It's not out of the box. But to say that waters separate from the waters is a proof that the Bible copied from the... Man, you better get back on track, boy. You better pant, boy. Better stop this. God bless you, man. For like, it's tough.
What we see within the biblical account is that God purposefully creates. There's only one God. He purposefully creates, and then he creates, and it's good.
I'm giving you the difference. I'm telling you the difference, right?
Good. And it continues to say it's good 7 times. And then at the end of chapter 1, just for, you know, the thick people in the original audience, it says, and then it was very good. And then he creates humanity, not kings, but simply the humans that he creates.
Humans. I give you authority, dominion to... Yeah. And there are many scriptures in the Bible that the same thing, but in a different way. But this guy said we copied from the Babylonian lore. We word for word. Crazy.
It's in God's image. And they have purpose and meaning, and that instills them with this creation order. And that's not what we find in the Enuma Elish. In fact, we find the opposite in the Enuma Elish, is that the created order is not good, it's a mistake, and that you are not created in the image of God. And there's a reminder that regular...
So this charlatan, anyway, you know, the words are similar. I found the word give in the lore of the Babylonians, and I found the word give in Genesis. So that means Genesis must have ripped off these people. And what my historian friend is doing right here is like, yo, let's the comical side of this, because you definitely joking, you trolling, okay, you trifling, but let's break it down to the actual concept of what Genesis is. Like, we're created in God's image. That's not what the Babylonian lore says. God gave us authority and dominion. He gave us full control, right? That's not what's in the Babylonian lore at all. God came down in the cool of the day to interact with us. That's not what's in the lore at all. Not even close. So he's bringing this very clear contrast between the entire belief system composition of what that is and what this is. And like, yo, you're off, buddy. You're way offline, buddy. Like, I don't know what bold claim you're making here, but this is miles off. Crazy.
People are not created in the image of God. I would say, just with all due respect, the parallels...
This really aggravates me. It's like, why are you doing this?
Linguistically are not there. There might...
Sorry for pausing so much.
Superficial kind of concepts that are there, but they're so superficial that we can find them in everything. In the sense of, I'm in an office studio, your office studio. That doesn't mean that, you know, that we're the same people or even in the same place. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I don't agree with that. I just see, if I have all these texts out, there's a lot of different information that you can see. There's a lot of it's been copied word for word into the biblical text.
But what's word for word?
In your version of what you believe in, you keep saying that God's it.
Yep.
And so where do you get that from?
And once again, Billy failed to provide a response to Wes's fact-based claim and didn't provide a counterclaim before deciding to change the subject. So we're barely even 30 minutes into the debate at this point. And so far, Wes has completely dismantled every single piece of evidence that Billy has brought forth, and the rest of the debate continues to go on just like this. And by the way, there were countless...
If you want to believe and whatever you want to believe, I'm not shaming you. Believe in your belief. Like, believe in your whatever you want to believe in. Across history, there have been many belief systems, there have been many religions, many cultures with many practices and all of that. But do not come and say that Christianity is fake or false. So you got some historical falsity that you have to dispel what we believe in. Do not just deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, exist in your own space. Like, believe your stuff. God's mercy will locate you and bring you into illumination and truth. But do not come out here with these comical claims of biblical Sinai and whatever illumination and stuff and make these wild claims boldly with a straight face, having no proof to back it up, having no evidence or source to back it up at all, and being carpeted by a real historian and a real expert. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't do that. If you want to have an honest argument, do your research. Like, make sure it's honest and come with honest opinions and conclusions, and let us debate and let us really, like, talk it out. And let's have a conversation. I love a good conversation, but don't be dishonest with it. Like, this is dishonest. This is dishonest. This is so dishonest. Like,
copyright claims being filed to protect Billy to have the videos taken down, but it seems now that there's so many clips surfacing that the videos are now being left alone. So we'll see if this video even stays up, but I think it's now clear why Billy wanted to keep this debate off the internet.
Because he knows that this is going to destroy his entire image. Like, I don't know if he's doing this for business purposes or he really is passionately trying to lead people to the truth, which is anything but the truth. But yeah, this is definitely going to destroy your entire image. And yeah, this is what you're known for. And, spewing these very particular facts, claims about Christ, about Christianity. And yeah, you've actually met with somebody who knows what the hell they're talking about. Yeah. Deuces, man.
So badly. He wasn't capable of providing any evidence for any of his claims that he's been teaching for years that are causing people to doubt the validity of the Bible. And if people want to question the veracity of the Bible, then they should do so based on facts. But as we've seen in this debate, the facts overwhelmingly support its reliability. So all in all, this debate serves as a reminder that Christianity is built on a firm foundation, not myths or misinformation. And most importantly, this points us back to the heart of the gospel. Christ really did live, die, and rise again.
Not on Christmas. Not on Christmas Eve. Not on Jesus' birthday. You doing this nonsense? You pulling this shenanigans stunt? Come on, man. Not fair.
Again, which is a historical event that changed the world forever. And his resurrection isn't just a claim, it's the cornerstone of our faith and the hope that we have today. Now, if you want to dive deeper into how the resurrection...
Now, we used to have false prophets, that would sort of manipulate the scriptures to their own favors. And we still have them a lot. You know what I'm saying? Now we don't just have that, because now we have a generation that, is, that's truth. Like, that wants to know the facts behind a lot of things, that want to see proof of things. We have a very intellectual generation, and, it's sort of breeded this new wave of, pseudo spiritualists and pseudo scientists and pseudo Christians, like this, who come up with false claims and false facts. So, and there are many claims on the internet, man. There are many facts. Somebody comes and claims this and claims that. You need to know God for yourself. You need to do your own research, and when you realize that whatever you're learning is leading you away from Christ, you better retrace your steps. You know what I'm saying? And the Bible is the standard. No other book can dispel the Bible. No other book can prove it wrong. It's the standard. You know what I'm saying? So do not look to other books. And I'm not saying you can't do that, like, if you, like, as a scholar, of course. There are many manuscripts and, many other, historical texts and evidences that sort of corroborate and prove events and things in the Bible, of course. But the Word of God is the standard, man, and nothing should change that. Nothing should ever change that. And yeah, we're done with Billy Carson, man. This is agitating. This is annoying. I pray for my brother. He's my brother, man. I pray for my brother that he finds the truth. He finds Christ, that, whatever this is, whatever grift this is, I pray he finds the narrow path again. He finds Christ again, because this ain't it, man. This ain't it. Anyways, thank you guys. We come back with another one. Bye-bye.
Changed the entire landscape of the region at that time. Go ahead and check out this video and check out Wes's channel, as well as a